This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Well, welcome to Community Connections. I'm Justine Paradiso with the Dubuque Area Chamber of Commerce, the Marketing and Programs Manager. And before we begin, I'm just going to call on people. And if you guys just want to unmute yourself and just introduce who you are and where you come, what business or nonprofit you're with, that would be great. So first name I see is Christine. So if you could introduce yourself, please. And then we'll go to Trisha.
Hi, I'm Christine Cornell. I work at Tyson Supply here in Dubuque, and I'm the Business Systems Manager here.
Thank you, Christine. All right, Trisha, and then Marilyn, you're on deck.
Good morning. This is Trisha Banky. I'm Order Fulfillment Manager at John Deere, and I was just calling in because I volunteer with some nonprofits, and I was interested to see what you had to say.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Marilyn, you're up, and Danielle, you're on deck.
Good morning. This is Marilyn Altoff from Hills and Dales, and I also have with me Deanne, Carrie, and Wendy. So we're doing a joint meeting.
Well, welcome to all of you. Dan, you keep it down in there.
Got it.
All right, Danielle, you're up, and then Jennifer, you're on deck.
Morning, everyone. I'm Danielle Shea. I'm the Marketing Communications Director at the Dubuque Y. I'm also caller number 1. I don't have a camera or a something like a video camera, so that's me twice. I'm gonna hang up after I'm done talking. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. Jennifer, go ahead. I guess I should let you know, I think you jumped on. We're just introducing ourselves and what business we're with. Oh, maybe she's not there. Let's see, who else was on here? It looks like, is it Raquel?
Yes, Raquel McClellan with the Dubuque Dream Center.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, and then Samantha. She might be another. Samantha is our membership manager here at the chamber, so I know she's going to jump up.
I am here.
Okay.
I might jump off for a phone call, but I am listening.
All right. Welcome to everybody. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We are so excited. I am not going to read a bio for Karen. I'm just going to let her introduce herself, but it looks like everybody's already muted their mics, but I'm going to make her the presenter so that way she can share a presentation. So hopefully everybody's able to see that. If not, this is going to be recorded for you guys to watch the presentation PowerPoint part later. And then Karen, is it possible to get a copy of your PowerPoint to share with everyone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and make Karen the presenter, and welcome. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, hi, I'm Karen Jess with Eide Bailly CPAs. I've been with them for just shy of 25 years, and my focus is nonprofits, and I work with several in Dubuque. Hi to those online I've worked with, and I really enjoy working with nonprofits and helping them succeed. So I'm going to click on share, and Justine, if you can let me know if you're seeing slide 1.
I'm seeing it. You are good to go.
Awesome. So the focus of today's presentation is going to be identifying sustainable revenue sources for nonprofits. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that the background on this is COVID related, as is everything else in our world today. We've all had to think about how we do our jobs and deliver services during this time and be creative and inventive. And so I've compiled a few examples of different organizations, mostly nonprofits, that have done a good job of being creative and inventive and keeping those revenue streams going, even if some of their programming was shut down due to COVID. So to start out, there we go. So nonprofits aren't immune from the effects of COVID, as anybody on the phone knows, and the impact of the economic uncertainty we're experiencing is unreal at this time. You know, you don't know tomorrow what your workforce is going to look like or what your service offerings are going to look like. Many of you have had programs that were shut down due to government mandates. So sustainable nonprofits address challenges with creative, innovative ideas and embrace digital transformation and remembering to always be forward thinking. It's so easy to sit back and say we should have instead of we should. So I would challenge each of you to think about that as I present today. What are you doing? How does it define you? How does it meet your mission, your goals? Is there a better way of doing business? Challenge yourself and challenge your staff and your boards. Nonprofit sustainability, or the ability to continue delivering relevant social impact, has always been important. So that's not different. It's just more, I guess, kind of in your face today. So if you ask any executive director what keeps them up at night, you'll probably hear it's about raising enough money. You have a mission, you have a goal, you want to provide services, but you obviously need resources to do that. And at any point in time, those resources can change and the mix of resources can change. So the likelihood of revenue being reliable is increased when there's alignment between that revenue stream and your impact. So you'll hear me say a lot during the presentation about your organization's impact and aligning your revenue streams. So you need to think about how the different audiences benefit from your efforts, and you have to invest in revenue streams that attract those that value your impact. So you want to align with donors and revenue streams that value what you do and what you can bring to a community. And for an organization to be resilient and weather challenging times, you have to build reserves. I know a lot of nonprofits that I work with or that I've engaged with, they have very slim bottom lines. So when something happens, such as COVID-19, there's not that ability to weather the storm. They then have to rely on reaching out to certain donors or being creative to just maybe sometimes making payroll. So unrestricted dollars provide flexibility for leadership to move that money where they see the strongest needs. So hopefully, if you don't have those reserves, it's something you can think about and try to build upon. Anybody that works with donors know that it requires time to cultivate those donors and their stewardship. So you need a systemic method of connecting with the community when you are mostly reliant on individual donors. Whereas if you rely on government contracts, you have to have a strong accounting system to track expenses and reporting the impact, because many governments will require you to, on the backside, show them what you did with their money. What impact did you make on the community or the population we were trying to support? So strong revenue strategy requires intentional planning. You have to align again with your impact. You have to have flexible income, and you have to be able to leverage your capacities. So when your employee pool changes, you have to be able to pull or reshift or rethink, how do we fulfill our mission with limited resources? Sometimes it means saying no to either something you're currently doing or something you're thinking about doing. You have to be able to shift your priorities to build and remain committed. So an example of that would be if your organization, a donor approaches you with, let's say, $100,000 donation, but the focus is so narrow on how you could use it that it requires you on the backside to hire staff and to devote a lot of time. It's really important not to always say yes immediately, but to really think about the impact of either the donor or a new revenue stream. What does it mean? Can I sustain it? We're talking today about sustainable revenue. And unfortunately, sometimes that means saying no to revenue sources. Social impact. Why do you do what you do? First and foremost, maybe now is a good time to visit that vision. What impact are you trying to create, and how do you plan to create it? Again, with COVID, we've had to sit back and think about things differently. And what are we doing? How are we doing it? And is this really where we should be focusing our energy? So consider shifting the way you deliver programs and services. Maybe it's time to forge new partnerships that it could extend and increase your reach and impact. There's been a lot of collaboration and partnerships that have developed during this time. One example that I found is a nonprofit that provides food, medical, legal, and social services. They were forced to close their food pantry to the public. So all of a sudden here they sit with these resources and not able to fulfill their mission. So they forged a partnership to get groceries to their constituents. So if people couldn't come to their food pantry because they were closed, they formed this new partnership to be able to take those same resources, those groceries and food sources, out to the constituents. And then they also expanded their medical services to include telehealth and COVID-19 testing. So they were able to take what happened to them through no fault of their own, partner with another organization, and increase their social impact. And likely that is something that will probably continue into the future for them. So it's changed the way they look at what they did. And by partnering with someone else, they were able to make a larger impact, and it didn't cost them more, which is obviously something we're all interested in. Economic viability. How do you fund what you do? A nonprofit has to be financially viable to deliver impact. If the resources aren't there, eventually you can't provide the services that are needed. So a couple things you have to do. You have to assess your current situation, and cash management's critical. That's always the bottom line. It's important to understand your reliance on those revenue streams you have and on the individual donors that may be your majority donor in your organization. So assess that, think about that situation, and what happens if something changes in that revenue stream, be it a revenue stream for fee for service or for a donation. Think about your budgets. I think it's important to create a best, a worst, and an expected scenario and how you would respond to those. I know it takes a lot of time and energy, but again, it would have been great to have that in place when COVID hit. So think about the programs you provide and what would happen if your main funding source all of a sudden wasn't there. How would you respond to that? It's great to have a plan, to be proactive instead of reactive. And maybe now is time to have those honest conversations with the donors and stakeholders. They need to understand your needs and what could happen if your needs change. So do you have a donor who's willing to step to the plate? They support your mission. Is it someone you could reach out to? Capacity to deliver. What supports what you do? There's 4 different capacities that I found during my research: leadership, adaptive, collaborative, and technology. Leadership, you have to have a great executive team that really communicates with staff. You have to have good governance practices so that you have trust and good culture throughout your organization. When the ball drops, you want to make sure that the people behind the scene are going to all rally around and support whatever happens and try to make the best out of every situation. Adaptive capacity, just being able to adapt to change and situations. Collaborative, that's what I'm going to talk about quite a bit. Nonprofits are coming together in creative ways to boost their social impact during this time. I think we've all watched the news. We've seen a lot of good things among all the bad. Wish there was a station I could just tune into that talked about the good, because the negative kind of drags you down after a while. But there's really been some creative thought processes out in the real world during COVID. Technology capacity, we've all had to learn how to change. I know from my own experience, early March, we had a big call with the powers that be from Fargo, which is where our main office is, and said, starting tomorrow, everyone will be working remotely. And that was hard to swallow. So you look around your office and what do I need? How long is this going to last? All our meetings are going to be virtual. I guess I'm not traveling to Denver for that training. Just how things have shifted and changed, and the technology we've all had to adapt to and learn and utilize. And some of it's really been an eye-opener, and I think it's here to stay. As I said, I'm going to talk a lot about collaboration and partnerships because I think sustainable revenue sometimes will rely on collaboration and partnerships. There's a lot of nonprofits out there, and a lot of them cross over in services they provide, or they provide services that really align with each other. And should we be looking at some partnerships to use our resources and our revenue to the most efficient method we could? All organizations need to examine your social impact, your economic viability, and capacity to deliver. Collaboration and partnerships are critical aspects of helping nonprofits reposition themselves. As I said, I think we're in the next normal. I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way we were. I'm hoping we can backtrack a little bit, but I think there's been a lot of good lessons learned throughout the past months that can help us move forward and actually be stronger as organizations. So collaboration and partnerships are about coming together on an activity or initiative that benefits all involved. And don't limit yourself to just collaborating with another nonprofit, because it could be a for-profit that you need to collaborate with that could have the most impact. The benefits can be financial, operational.
The tags of a new pair.
Hello? Oops, somebody must have their speaker on.
That's right, I got them muted. Go ahead.
Financially, these relationships may allow organizations to share in costs and reduce expenses tied to their joint efforts. So not only can you form a partnership that will make your impact greater, but you can also share in some of the expenses, which makes your revenue go much further. So operational efficiencies may be achieved by sharing in program development. So if you're thinking about starting a new program, maybe aligning with another organization that could assist in that, then you can share those expenses to get that program up and running. Overall, organizations can grow their value by expanding their mission, but not their budget, by collaborating and having partnerships. So the results, both parties are stronger and better positioned. And that leads to long-term sustainability. I like this little picture on the next slide of the guy with his little divining rod that says he's great at finding revenue streams. So, he's got his little divining rod out trying to find his resources to support whatever activity he's doing. And obviously for nonprofits, the ultimate goal is to have a sustainable way of making a difference. You want to create as many revenue streams as possible that support your cause. You always want to align with things that support your mission and make sure that that revenue stream is viable. So in addition to charitable donations and classic fundraising, you can find strategic partners that offer additional opportunities for income. One example of an organization that our firm works with is Volunteers of America, Utah. So they have a program called Maud's Cafe, which is a job training program for homeless youth. And they formed a partnership that assisted them or enhanced what they were already doing. So Maud's Cafe is an 8 to 12 year program where homeless youth gain hands-on job experience. So within the cafe, they learn how to provide customer service, obtain a food handler's permit, create a resume, and practice other valuable skills that can help them in the real world and hopefully get them out of that homeless world that they were in. Art Space is a nonprofit that looks to provide affordable housing and commercial space as part of their mission. And these are both located in Salt Lake City. So Art Space approached VOA with the idea to provide them a rent-fee retail space within their facility to create a business that would benefit both. So by hosting that cafe, Art Space was providing a unique dining experience for its other building tenants. And VOA was able to provide that education and life skills. So they both benefit from this collaboration and are able to achieve their goals. The cafe has become an ongoing source of revenue for VOA in addition to providing young adults an exit to homelessness. So another added benefit is that when that at-use risk becomes self-reliant, it saves money and resources for the future to help them serve the next population. So finding that synergistic balance between aiding your cause, generating sustainable revenue, and benefiting the partner can be a challenge, but it can be the difference between struggling and succeeding. So Maud's Cafe may have been having a hard time, paying that rent each month for their cafe in order to provide that service. But by partnering up with Art, they were able to both benefit mutually. So what partners do you have that can mutually benefit from your goals? You got to think outside the box and create something where all parties involved can find sustainability. So maybe look in the community at other nonprofits or for-profits that either have a goal that could align with yours or could benefit from each other, such as the example I just showed you. There's a lot of nonprofits out there with missions, and as your boards and yourself move around in the community, just keep it in the back of your mind and be alert and just think about, what does this organization do? And is there something we could do together to have a bigger impact, where we could, have a large impact on the community or the population we serve, but we wouldn't have to put all our resources into doing that. We can share that cost. So benchmarking and financial modeling within your organization can help expose areas of weakness for you to work on. What programs are weak in my organization from a revenue sustainability model? Is there something that's kind of dragging us down? It causes, everyone to lose a little sleep at night. And then think about what are ways you could provide a bigger impact without adding expenses to your bottom line. Is there another organization out there I could align with? A term we hear a lot in our world is mining your diamonds. Nonprofits continue to apply that concept to take a deeper look at what they already have and ask how they can make it work for them. So I'd align it to the fact we have all these rocks in our organization. How can we polish and make those rocks shine to have a larger impact? And some of the areas to think about are the relationships with customers, vendors, your programs. What programs am I providing currently? Those could be my diamonds. Where does our expertise lies? Physical space. Am I limited by my physical space? Technology. Is it holding us back? Have we thought a lot about maybe we should do this, and now's the time to say we are going to do this? Relationships with your donors. One area you can look at is your donor base. So for a lot of organizations, that's the largest category of support within their organization. Cultivating meaningful relationships also leads to long-term support, planned giving opportunities, and legacy gifts. Those last two are super important because our donors aren't going to be here forever. Do they have enough passion about our organization that they're interested in that long-term either legacy or planned giving opportunity? Can they make an impact even after they're no longer here? You also need to remember that individuals are the ones who ultimately request or determine the gifting of funds from donor-advised funds, foundations, and corporate grants and sponsorships. So again, cultivating that relationship is very important. Tell your story. That was a buzzword probably 5-6 years ago, and it still comes around. Use social media to get your message into the public. Make it easy to donate using online platforms. We've all seen how things have changed during COVID and our period of isolation, I guess I would call it. Social media was a way for organizations to get their messages out there. And I'll have a slide a little later where I'll just talk a little bit about some more personal things that I saw during this time and how social media benefited that. Your relationships with vendors. Is it time to renegotiate, restructure, reset? I know a few organizations that have gone together and done bulk purchasing with vendors because they can get a better discount. So maybe that's something your organization could consider if you have large purchases from some of your vendors. If you find yourself in a position where you're really cash strapped, ask your vendor for an extension. You know, they don't want to lose your business. They're going through a tough time too. So maybe delaying paying those expenses could help you if it's based on timing of when you receive some revenue yourself. Insurance can be very useful right now, particularly as nonprofits cancel events and experience business interruption. Really, really important to know your policy terms and reach out to your agent with questions. I know just my insurance gave us a small rebate because they realized that people aren't traveling and using their vehicles as much as they did. So as part of their fiscal responsibility, they gave rebates to their customers, which was greatly appreciated. Digital transformation in a touchless environment. Can't stress that enough, how we've all had to adapt and learn how to use new technology. And in order to continue to advance your exempt mission, nonprofits should stay abreast of changing trends and method for online giving. Social media, online marketing, and the ability to connect with the values and concerns of each generation can give you a distinct advantage. Seems like our next generation wants things electronically. They want things easy at their fingertips. So another critical component will be to review how you conduct donations and events going forward. As we move into touchless, at least minimal contact environment, how can you make giving easy for current and potential donors? Technology, a virtual experience. So some of the things I've had to adapt to during the pandemic: virtual meetings with coworkers, clients, family, friends. Some of the platforms were Zoom, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, which is what we're using today, Facebook Messenger. I have a daughter that lives in Europe, so Facebook Messenger is my best friend. From an office perspective, we use a lot of Zoom and Microsoft Teams meetings. We have offices in several states in the west of the Mississippi, and to pull everybody together, that's kind of been our go-to. Even some of my training that I was scheduled to go to in person has been converted to online training. So people have had to adapt and figure out, well, how do you structure that so you can still give CPE if that's needed? So a lot of things behind the scenes, but that technology and the ability to use it. Some of those platforms were even offering free months of demonstrations or free use of their software. And I'm sure with the hopes that you'll buy it down the road. But if you're not using any of those, consider looking them up and doing a little research. Virtual fundraising events. I've actually sat in on some fundraising events that were supposed to take place that went virtual. Some of the platforms I saw were Facebook, Zoom, YouTube, a local cable channel, and Bidding Owl was the one that was used in the event that I attended. I could see that event in the future going live with all these same platforms used in the background. Because what it did was it allowed people that had a connection to that agency that had the fundraising event, it allowed them from states away to participate and attend and maybe to bid on items. So it was a really good experience. I would say I still like the live better, but it gives you an additional pool of resources that you could draw from. So consider that if you're not. So there, again, as I said, there are many companies offering free tools, a lot of for limited time. Just look online for that. There were also grants I know that had been made available to assist with technology, and really just talking to your peers. See if they'd share their technology successes and even their failures. You know, what's worked during this time. I think especially a lot of organizations, their missions and visions are very different, but they're all for the good of the community that they serve or the population they serve. So hopefully they're willing to share in those successes and failures. COVID-19, it's the new normal. Many organizations have to look beyond simply unlocking the doors and turning on the lights when they reopen. Things are going to look different. You have to reassess every aspect of your organization and focus and define your new identity. So, not a big plug here, but just saying our firm has invested a lot of time, talent, and treasure to assist organizations. If you haven't looked on our webpage, I would strongly suggest it. There's a lot of great articles, webinars. If you did any of the paycheck protection funds or any of those, there's a lot of good data out there about that. The National Council of Nonprofits also has a great link, and I've included them in my presentation. So when, if you ask for a paper or electronic copy, you can just click on these links. But again, I think there's some really, really good resources out there. So use them. Ask questions. People are willing to help you. From our perspective, we want to see everybody succeed. As one respondent to a survey wrote, the pandemic inspired us to be a more agile, to pivot and approach issues more innovatively, and challenge us to look at our work differently. So we can look at the positive in each situation, and I think you can find them in the pandemic. Another noted, it's been very difficult in many ways, but also very positive in adapting our culture to be more fluid, nimble, and paperless. I know it's an initiative of our firm to be paperless. Was I the best at it? Probably not, because old habits are hard to break. But being remote, I do not have a printer at home, so I've learned to be paperless, and actually I find it very refreshing. Another person said that they've been thinking about a merger with another group for years, but the pandemic really pushed us to begin those discussions. So it's forced us to get out of our comfort zone, which I think is good. I know, again, I like to just kind of things as they were, but this has really forced us to think outside that box. Another respondent described in job terms, in order to keep staff, we're exploring a partnership with another nonprofit to share an employee's time and cost of employment. So again, that's something to consider. I know we all like to operate in our own world, in our own bubble, but sometimes just letting another organization bump up to us and maybe align with us is not a bad thing. Here's some people that reacted to changes in environments. Some luxury brands, LVMH, which is a parent company of Christian Dior and a few others, they're switching their production lines from perfume to making hand sanitizer. Industrial companies are making hygienic masks. Luxury hotels are becoming quarantine centers. Distilleries creating disinfectant alcohol, and so forth. So, their world changed also, and they had to react. Now they're for-profits that probably have a little more resources at their hands, but I guess I just wanted to share it because it's just examples of people thinking outside that box. Repurposing not only helps companies protect their own workforce, but to serve the greater good. It also helps to keep production lines up and running in times of low demand, generate moderate revenues, and positively impact reputation. You know, it was all over the news when these companies were doing this. And it kind of just gives that population that listens to that message the warm fuzzies. So another organization, Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin, they produce, their produce donations have been slim since the pandemic. The food bank recently started a partnership with a local hydroponic farm, and Cassie Falks, the community impact manager, she's actually picking up lettuce donations from the farm weekly and delivering it directly to the pantry because they were having a shortage on getting food there. So she says we're doing what we need to do to get food into the community. It's amazing to see communities coming together right now to help people. It's such a bright part of this tough time. For food banks, the new normal means finding different ways to get food to people who need it while looking for new sources of food and volunteers. Community-based organizations. So in an example of community collaboration from Baltimore, the Food Project is working to bring food to vulnerable and poverty-stricken families. They're also continuing to offer online classes and collaborations surrounding the pandemic. So they've had to reach out to different organizations to collaborate to fulfill their mission. So that was one thing I was saying, not a bad idea. Honey Salt, a fine dining restaurant in Las Vegas, is teaming up with Clark County to prepare and deliver meals to housebound or vulnerable populations and their families. We actually had that in my a community local to me, where a restaurant, they had all this food on site, and when they had to shut down, it's like, oh no, some of this is fresh, what do we do with it? So they actually teamed up with a local food agency that delivered to the elderly and housebound, and were able to provide meals for them. Salad and Go is an Arizona fast casual eatery that is helping their community directly. Beyond donations to local nonprofits, they're offering free breakfast burritos and lunch salads to workers affected. So on the backside, they were having people that were donating a lot of money to them because the word got out that they were doing this. So people wanted to support that. So it was a very creative way to generate some new revenue, and maybe it's a sustainable revenue. Maybe that's something that they can consider doing going forward. Be creative in the delivery of services. These are just some of the things that I was aware of during the last several months. Restaurants that were shut down suddenly offered takeout and delivery options where they've not done that before. Some were offering prepared meal kits and grocery items. So, you know, if they were able to get some of the things in-house that they could share within their communities, especially some of your smaller communities that don't have a real strong grocery presence. DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and more. It just seems every day there's another delivery method for orders to go. So we even had a brewery locally that delivered to your door. They had a bike with a basket on the back, and you could order because they had to shut down their on-site presence. So you could order and they deliver right to your door. Online religious services with links for charitable contributions. One that I was familiar with was PaySimple. I think that again is going to be something that sticks around for a while because they were able to reach people that maybe physically aren't able to attend services, but during, especially now, felt that they needed that connection. A lot of yoga and fitness businesses used on-demand and scheduled classes using social media such as Facebook Live. So you're able to sit in the comfort of your own home and do yoga with a whole group. And, you know, if you could project it onto your TV screen, you maybe were able to actually visually see other people as you all do your yoga together. My local agency here had encouraged residents to shop locally by selling chamber bucks. And they even went so far as if you buy 50, they would give you 10 more, you know, and that was to help influx money into the community. So as I said before, everybody has been impacted by this. So just being creative. Here's a couple more examples. Sunderland Farm Collaboration in Western Massachusetts, bringing together farms across the region to coordinate delivery of fresh produce, baked goods, and other local foods. I think we've seen a lot of that in our local communities. In Tucson, Welcome Diners offering a pay what you can staff meal. So they're asking their staff to pay what they could, and then they're using that to feed people that can afford it. So each day their meal for the restaurant employees, they sit down together before their shift. So then they're able to take that money and feed the wider community. Schmidt's Pastry Cottage in Utah is going extreme in extreme times and giving away all their bread until they can't give it away anymore. And again, that's an example where people then on the backside were making donations because word got out there that they were doing this and people just wanted to support that. The next slide again is just some links to COVID-19 relief provisions. So if you have not partaken in any of those, there are some that are still available.
Not messing around. Okay.
And I think it's important to just be aware of those and to utilize them if you're capable. That's actually the end of the presentation. I believe we have about 15 minutes left. So I'll turn it back over to Justine.
Yes, Karen, thank you so much. At this time, I invite you guys to unmute yourself, turn on your cameras if you wish, and if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. Not everybody at once now. Well, if there's no questions at this time, I just want to say thank you, Karen, so much. That was so much great information. Like I said, this is going to be this was recorded, I should say, and we will be sharing this on our website, and then Karen will make the PowerPoint available as well that I will send out to all the attendees. And I know I got a couple emails from people who weren't able to attend who are very excited to watch the recording. So thank you again. And if you guys have any questions for Karen, her contact information is still on the screen. Otherwise, you can get a hold of me and I can put you in contact with her. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you all soon.